What's up? John Sonmez from simpleprogrammer.com. So, I thought I would do a video. I just got back from China actually yesterday, and I thought I'd do a video sort of wrapping up my take on China, talking about the trip a little bit, and what my thoughts are after visiting China for the first time. You'll probably see some of the videos I did in China. Those will probably come out after this video because I'm uploading this video now. But I did some videos while I was there, so you can see kind of the scenery and stuff. But I wanted to do a video at least like while it's fresh in my mind, talking about kind of what I was thinking about, what kind of experiences and thoughts I had. And there'll probably be more videos that come out of some of these ideas that I had while I was traveling in China. So one interesting thing, obviously, if you've been watching the channel, you know that I normally produce like 2 to 3 videos a day. And probably you saw that one was coming out a day for most days, and that's because I basically could not upload videos from China, so I didn't see a point in shooting 2 videos a day while I was there. That was also fairly difficult just because I was doing a tour, and so I was rushing from place to place, and there wasn't a whole lot of time, just not the best conditions for shooting videos, and not being able to upload them. I didn't feel like it made a lot of sense. So, but I did shoot some videos there, and I've got those on my camera, which I'll be uploading. But yeah, so China, let's see. So I went there basically to speak at this TID conference, and it was interesting because I was speaking with a translator, the gentleman who translated my book into Chinese, and I gave the talk, the same talk that you can watch the video on, the Xamarin Evolve talk that I did on 5 soft skills every software developer should learn, except I reduced that to 3, but it was still difficult to get through all those in the allotted time, and it was just awkward. It was, it was one of those things. It was a good growing experience for me. I've been growing as a speaker this year as I started giving talks without slides, and then this was an opportunity to give a talk in front of an audience that has no idea what you're saying, and you have a translator, because it was definitely shocking for me. I didn't realize that going to China, that most Chinese, even developers, would not speak English, or basically would not speak English. When I traveled to Europe, there was just a ton of English speakers that were there. I mean, you could go to Paris and Berlin and pretty much any major city in Europe, and you're going to find English speakers, at least in the services industry. But that's not so in China. So that was really interesting. So the talk was difficult, I will say. Normally when I give a talk, I gauge sort of the feedback from the audience, the reactions. It's an interactive thing. And so this was tough. It was different culture. Having the translator, I don't know what he's saying necessarily. He's paraphrasing me. Sometimes he's going word for word type of translation, and I don't know what that is. I don't know what the reactions are. So it was difficult to get through, really quite difficult. But I did get through it. And then I gave some talks at a large company that's like the Groupon in China called Meituan, which was pretty cool. And that one I did on branding. That one, they translated it afterwards. They sort of summarized what I said. So that went a little bit smoother, but it's still difficult. These are some of the things that, it scared me, to be honest. Like, this was intimidating to go and do this, but I got through it, and, was able to successfully complete it. So, it's a growing experience. That's the thing, is now I've talked in front of a foreign audience that doesn't speak the language. And I've got some ideas and some ways to do it better for the next time, but it was definitely difficult, right? So let's see. So I went there. I basically went on a tour after that. I booked with a tour company. By the way, if you do go to China to visit, I would highly recommend using a tour company, because if you don't, you're going to be in big trouble if you don't speak Chinese. I didn't even think about this, but you cannot drive a car, essentially, because driving in China is like crazy. Like driving in Beijing or any of the major cities is insane. You will not want to drive yourself. And then as far as like getting a taxi or even an Uber, if you don't speak Chinese and you can't write a Chinese address, not just the pinyin version of the address. Pinyin is basically the Latin character phonetics of the Chinese alphabet, but most people don't Like, they're not going to recognize that as far as an address. At least that was my understanding. So if you can't do that, you're not going to be able to get around. And you're not going to be able to ask for help either. So you're definitely having the tour. When I was there, I had basically this 3-week tour, or like 2.5 weeks, and we had a driver and a translator every day. That was just with my family, so that was pretty cool. Definitely was awesome experience. So much. I was, as you can tell, I got fat. I mean, I think it's super fat, but I definitely got fat. Like, I lost my abs, or most of them. Like, my lower abs are gone now. I basically gained like 10 pounds of fat. While I was there, I went from like 7-point-something% body fat to like 9.8 or something like that. So, and gained 10 pounds. So I didn't lift at all. I didn't run at all. It just was not feasible. Didn't make sense. So I'm basically starting over. If you've been following my fitness, I've been trying to put together a fitness program, and I've been beta testing it. So I'm basically going to be starting over with the results from the beginning of that again, and losing this weight. So I'll document that a little bit and talk about that. I don't want to get into that here. I want to talk more about China. So China was pretty awesome. Beijing was the first city I went to. It was a crazy city, just like, 22 million people. Very shocking, like some of the living conditions, both on, I think China is nothing like I expected. Both, it was more civilized. There was more sky rises, more like technology than I expected, and also more worse living conditions than I expected. Like in Beijing, around sort of the area, the Hutongs, basically this area around the Forbidden City, it was pretty nasty, like, very dirty, very old stuff, people on the street just like hanging out. Like, it wasn't necessarily dangerous, it was just weird, just uncomfortably dirty. But you go to the tech area in Beijing, and it's like super high tech. They've got this technology called WeChat, which everyone uses, and it basically replaces Twitter and Messenger apps. But they also use it for commerce, so people buy things with WeChat wallet. It's pretty crazy. Like, it really has taken off. It's probably bigger than Facebook is here. There, everyone uses WeChat. And I was shocked by that. There's like versions of every single piece of software that we have from YouTube. They have Youku, I believe it's called. There's like a Twitter clone. There's a Facebook clone. There's like all of this stuff that's blocked there. As far as internet access, it was definitely restricted, right? I couldn't get to, or I had a VPN, but that still wasn't fast. It was very, very slow, so and it didn't work too well on my Chromebook. And then the only thing, I have T-Mobile on my phone, so I was able to actually access the internet via there. That was unfiltered, but it was like 256K connection, so it was really slow. So let's see. So Beijing, yes, amazing, crazy city. Then I went to Xi'an. Let's see. In Beijing, I saw the Great Wall, saw the Forbidden City, saw the Summer Palace, a couple other things there. Then I went to Xi'an, which is basically where the Terracotta Army is, and I saw that, and that was phenomenal. That was amazing to see that. Saw a few other things there. Went to a more rural, sort of rural area called Guilin, or Guilin, and that was from there we took like this river cruise to Yangqiu, and that was, I'm mispronouncing all these, but anyway, that was pretty awesome. Just awesome scenery. We did some bike rides and climbed some mountains, and it was just incredible there. Very, very tourist area. Crazy how much, or even these small cities had just tons of people. And then finished up in Shanghai, and ended up going to Shanghai Disney and visiting a little bit in Shanghai, which was pretty cool. Shanghai is a very modern city. If you just visit China, you just visit Shanghai, you would think that China was a lot more modernized and more Western than it is. So it was really interesting to see the different cities. But as far as like where does this impact you? Where does it impact us? I think that it's my prediction is that within the next 10 years that China will become the dominant superpower in the world. I know this isn't a popular prediction, but after seeing the infrastructure there, after seeing how they're building, technology and because of their restrictions, because of having the Great Firewall, essentially that they're rebuilding these technologies and they're building these clones of these that work really well. And how many people are involved in tech? Young people are involved in tech there. And the entrepreneurial spirit, where it's strange. I thought, China, I imagine the opposite of an entrepreneurial spirit, but it actually seems to be higher of an idea there than it is in America or in Europe. So that is amazing. And so I think with that, with the population that they have, with the growth that they're going through, they've quickly gone through and becoming from an agrarian culture to the Industrial Revolution, and they're coming outside of it. I see it inevitable at this point that China, unless something really drastically changes in the world, that China is going to eventually overtake everyone. And so I'm actually going to invest, I believe, in learning Chinese and possibly putting up a Chinese version of Simple Programmer. I think that market is huge. It's ridiculously huge. My book, Soft Skills, you can check it out here, Soft Skills Software Developer's Life Manual. That was part of the reason I went over there, was for the Chinese release of the book. And that book ended up selling, they printed 7,000 copies, and it sold through those 7,000 copies in the first few days. It's selling more. In a very short amount of time, I'll have sold more copies in China than I will have anywhere else in the world. At least that's my prediction. That's pretty crazy. It went to number one in China for computer books, right? Because they have such a huge market. So yeah, I really think that that's possible. I think that it's inevitable. I think we should start preparing for that future and getting into that Chinese market, becoming familiar with it. I believe that learning Chinese could be an extremely valuable asset. Again, I don't think that's a very popular viewpoint, but I think that, after my experience of seeing it and seeing so much of China, I think that's inevitable. I think there's, still some problems. I think in some ways it's interesting that China actually, the citizens of China enjoy more freedoms than we do in the US. In some ways they're more restricted, for sure, right? It's a single party government. I don't, after seeing it, I would not call it communism anymore. I think it's a branch of socialism that has a free market component to it. I think that's how that China is operating, and you can see all these businesses and entrepreneurs that are flourishing there because of that. Now, there's still a great amount of government control and oversight and power, but they're also giving they know that the entrepreneurs are the future, and they're giving them quite a bit of flexibility and leeway and ability to really grow and thrive there. So I think we're going to see some major things. If you look at kind of what China's probably modeling things off of, you look at cities like Singapore and Hong Kong, or Singapore and Hong Kong, and you see how those are some of the richest cities in the world. Two of the richest cities in the world. And why? It's because of their kind of economic principles that they have set up, the way that they've made it easy for business, the way that they've made tax breaks for businesses, and encourage a highly entrepreneurial spirit. And so I think you're going to see a lot of that happening. I think China's modeling after those. So, this is opportunity, right? Some people are going to be angry that I'm making this video and saying that kind of stuff, and think that how can you be such a traitor? but honestly, this is opportunity. This is a whole market that is huge, that speaks one language, and the most widely spoken language in the world. And if you can, get into that market and get that opportunity, I think there's some really there's opportunity like we've never seen before in the world. But it's just there's a high barrier to entry. So those are the two things I like about the Chinese market, at this point. And I think it's becoming more westernized, right? Like I said, the tech scene, there's a lot of factors there. Aside from that, the food was awesome. Obviously, I got fat. I went off my program. Like I said, I became a master of using chopsticks. I really liked so much of the food. Gosh, so many people said, oh, you're going to lose so much weight. You're not going to have anything to eat. It's disgusting. It's not like Chinese food in the United States. So all of that is untrue. It was dang good food. There was so much good food and just great pastries. It was difficult to not stuff myself there. So I dropped that. but I have to pick it up again. Kind of a good mental test too, to see, can you actually like drop the routine and then go back to it? I've gotten fairly good at doing that. That was a good test for me. A good break too. I was at first trying to write my book and keep up with the schedule, but it just didn't make sense. So I took a pause from basically everything, since I couldn't really access the internet. And now I'm back on track, back at home, and I'm ready to get going here. Got a lot of things I need to get done and caught up on. But yeah, just wanted to give you a report on that. For those of you that are interested on what happened in China, I've got tons of stories and stuff. If you listen to the Entre Programmers podcast, you'll probably hear more about what China was like, because I'll be talking about that when I record the episode tomorrow, at least at the time I recorded this video. And yeah, interesting, really changes my worldview. Nice long flight, like 12 hours, and I'm glad to be back though. 3 weeks. I've actually gone from home for about a month because I went to Vegas first, but 3 weeks is a long time of hitting it hard, doing tourist stuff every single day. But yeah, it was fun. I had a lot of fun. A real good experience. It's not one of those luxury vacations, but it's one of those experiential vacations that really, I've got a lot to process, as you can probably tell. Sort of changed my worldview in a good way, right? So anyway, that's it. That's China. I'm back, and I'm ready to get to work. So if you like this video, if you would like to subscribe to the channel, go ahead, and I'll talk to you next time. Take care.